Hello, good morning and welcome to the brand new edition of the newspaper show right here on ET Now. I'm Cheryl D'Souza and let me take you through the top 10 headlines that's there on the Economic Times this morning. But before I do that, here a small note to all of our viewers that if you are not getting your copy of Economic Times or the Times of India, please talk to your delivery agent, or you can actually log on to www.wantmypaper.com and please let them know that you're not getting your copy of Economic Times or the Times of India. And as you know, the newspapers are indeed safe. There is no truth to the rumors saying that they are harmful. There's no truth to that. There is no scientific reason and it's totally irrational. So you can go ahead and get your copy of the Economic Times. But let's move ahead and let me get you what are the top 10 headlines that's there on the Economic Times this morning for you. And first up, you have the government that's capped the flight ticket prices for the next 3 months. This announcement was made by Aviation Minister yesterday post-market hours. So that is indeed the top headline on the Economic Times. Moving on, current account may turn surplus in FY21. That is as per the FinMin report that came in, and also economists. Moving on, you have Serum and AstraZeneca that is in talks for COVID-19 vaccine. You have SEBI that renewed the FPI license of PBOC. Moving on, you have credit rating reviews rules that have been eased. Apart from that, you have Finance Minister and the banks to look at easing of credit delivery. Bharti Airtel ARPUs may help Bharti Airtel get back in black by year end. Moving on to NBFC space, you have NBFC's call for long-term loan and bond guarantees. And e-grocery may clock $3 billion in sale. And lastly, you have Mamata Banerjee saying that Cyclone Amphan has killed 72 in Bengal. So those are the top 10 headlines that is there on the Economic Times. So let me move on and let me get you the top 5 corporate headlines on the Economic Times. And like I just mentioned, Bharti Airtel. Another news on Bharti Airtel, the buys into an AI-focused company known as Voice Zen. Moving on, you have MTR that is eyeing Eastern Condiments stake. And then you have Swiggy that is seeking a rent waiver from the embassy. Moving on, you have Johnson & Johnson that may scale down talc business in India. That is the baby talc business that they have. Moving on to Amazon, they've entered food delivery service from Bangalore. So those are your top 5 corporate headlines, and shifting focus now to the markets headlines. First up, you have exports will cushion Bharti Auto. I beg your pardon. I stand corrected. Exports cushion Bajaj Auto's volume fall. Moving on, you have Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund that stopped fresh inflows in 2 debt funds. Then you have investors that send legal notice to Franklin Templeton. You have ITC that is surged on restart of cigarette factories. And lastly, foreign ownership of stocks is lowest since December 13. There you go, and that's a roundup of all the top headlines as there on the Economic Times on corporate front as well as market front. But let me get you the top story that's there on ET this morning, and there you go. It is pertaining to the aviation sector, and government has capped the ticket fare prices, the airfare prices for the next 3 months. Remember, they've come out and they've said that they're going to allow the domestic flight operations, and that particular the amount of fares that they have decided, they've capped the fares on the lower as well as the upper ceiling, upper band for the next 3 months. It will be effective till August 24th. That was the announcement made by the Aviation Minister yesterday post-market hours when he came out with the contours of starting the domestic operations. Definitely, and also he talking about the international operations. He did say that they'll wait and watch and see how the resumption of domestic operations works, and then they may take a call on international flights much later on. But let's talk about more in detail about what are the flight fares like and how is it exactly capped. The limits are based on duration of the flight, and also the fares are from 2,000 to 18,600 for one-way economy ticket. They are split into 7 categories, into 7 different routes based on the routes as well as the timing that is spent on the particular flight. The government will set a limit on airfares for 3 months until the end of August to ensure the passengers are not overcharged as flights resume on Monday after having been suspended for 2 months due to the lockdown. However, Maharashtra has not yet taken a call on quarantine-related matters, which will be critical for flights between Delhi and Mumbai, normally the busiest aviation corridor in India. So this is the top story. The Maharashtra is yet to take a call on the quarantine-related measures, and that is a deciding factor basically for Delhi to Mumbai flights. The flight details: up to 40 minutes of flight duration. The prices are price cap is between 2,000 to 6,000 rupees. Flight duration between 40 to 60 minutes. The duration is 2,500 to 7,500. And last one, the 7th of that route, the flight duration of 180 to 210 minutes. The flight lower band is at around 6,500 and the upper band goes right up to 18,600. The fare regulations, like I mentioned, will be in force right up till August 24th, and they may be withdrawn if pricing situation is conducive. So this is the announcement coming in from the Aviation Minister and the Aviation Ministry on back of the fare policy for restarting the domestic operation. But let me move on to another top story that's there on the front page of Economic Times. Here you go, and this one it is. And that is the current account may turn surplus in FY21. Yesterday you had also the FinMin that came out with his macroeco report as well and mentioned this particular point in that as well. The surplus is seen at around $20 billion. Experts say it hints at demand destruction as well as investment slump. But let me read more of the story right off the paper. India's current account surplus, India's current account could show a surplus this year for the first time in several years. That's the word coming from economists, following a sharp decline in domestic demand for investment and consumption goods. The slump in crude and commodity prices and lower demand for them are also contributing to the decline in the imports. The surplus is expected, like I mentioned, around $19 to $20 billion in FY21, or around 0.7% of GDP. The last time India had seen a current account surplus was in FY07. So this is another top headline that is coming on the Economic Times on the current account that may turn surplus in FY21. But another story that we are tracking this morning, and that is NBFCs. NBFCs have called for long-term loan and bond guarantees. They are seeking at least 3-year window to access credit. They've written to Finance Minister highlighting the concerns. But what are the concerns? What does this basically entire call for long-term loan and bond guarantees mean? I'm joined by my colleague Varun. Varun, take us through the story and what exactly does it all talk about?
Right, Cheryl. Good morning. So basically, we all know that there's been a partial credit guarantee scheme of 45,000 crores for the NBFCs. Now, this will provide a 20% first loss guarantee to PSPs that are buying NBFC paper. There's also a sovereign guarantee back fund of 30,000 crore that will be managed by public sector banks, right? Now, what NBFCs are saying is that they're not really quarreling about the amount of money that's been given to them, but they want the duration to be extended. So as of now, the durations are on the shorter end of things. They want these guarantees to last for as much as 3 years. So they're anticipating probably that a lot of firms might make it by this year and next year financially, but the pain is definitely going to continue beyond that. So as all these NBFCs now begin to lend again, they're getting worried about what potentially might happen to their NPAs a few years down the line, and they're just asking for an additional guarantee in terms of the amount of time these loans will be guaranteed for. So essentially, you can say that if they're hoping that the economy takes 2 to 3 years to recover, the loan guarantee lasts till that time so that their asset quality and their NPAs don't get worse in the event of any defaults. That's basically what this story is about this morning. FIDC is the body that has officially communicated all this to the FM.
All right, thank you, Varun, for taking us through this particular story. But let me move on. Let me go on to another story that's there on the page 1 of Economic Times. And here you go. That this is the story that I'm talking about. That SEBI has renewed the FPI license of PBOC. So, what is this story all about? SEBI has renewed the license, the FPI license of People's Bank of China. The move allays concerns among China and Hong Kong-based portfolio investors. They have actually PBOC, I beg your pardon, Chinese Central Bank's FPI license now. It is valid till about May 2023. PBOC stake in HDFC triggered concerns about the China's investments into India. Government has put some curbs on FDIs coming in from China. Like we all know, this is what happened about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And SEBI too has been hinting at greater monitoring of FPIs from China. Let me talk more of this about the story that's there on the first paragraph of the story. That is, SEBI has extended People's Bank of China's foreign portfolio investor license by 3 years, allaying concerns among other China and Hong Kong-based FPIs. PBOC has sent several representations to SEBI and the Finance Ministry seeking timely renewal of the license that was expiring in the first week of May, and this is all as per sources. According to the industry estimate, Chinese Central Bank holds assets to the tune of $3 to $3.5 billion in India, which includes equity as well as bonds. So this is what the story is all about. SEBI going ahead and renewing the FPI license of People's Bank of China. Moving on, let's go to some news coming in from COVID-19 vaccine related, and that's also on the front page of Economic Times right here. This is the story that I'm talking about, and that is Serum Institute and AstraZeneca are in talks for vaccine supply. So what is this exactly? What is the vaccine and what sort of talks they are in? I'm joined by my colleague Pankaj to take us through the story. Pankaj, take it away.
We just talk about the vaccine. There were two important candidates, and one, of course, you got the news flow last week with the U.S. biotech company coming out and giving their first phase sort of trial. The second candidate, or the important candidate, is what's happening with Oxford University COVID-19 vaccine, and that is something which is probably the second candidate is what most of the pharma experts believe if a vaccine has to come. Now, Aadhar Poonawalla was, the front runner to go ahead and supply this if and when this happens, and now you're getting news flow that Serum Institute, which of course is owned by Aadhar Poonawalla, will make Oxford's COVID vaccine. This is in conjunction with AstraZeneca, which of course is a global major pharma company. They also say that at this point of time, our discussion with AstraZeneca is ongoing. However, we can certainly say that it will be more than about 100 million dosage that we will be able to provide them. This is something which Aadhar Poonawalla has said to the vaccine to dosage as the requirement of the government of India, and we will certainly make sure that everybody with respect to substantial volumes gets this vaccine once it happens. It is the second best candidate, which is what global pharma experts believe, and Serum Institute, owned by Poonawalla, is somebody who is the front runner to supply this vaccine once it happens.
All right, Pankaj, thank you for taking us through that particular story, a development that we need to all watch out closely for. But let's shift focus, and I'll flip my page to the page 4 of Economic Times, and here you go. This is a story that I'm going to talk about. Driven by ARPU, Bharti Airtel may be back in black by December. And so what is this story? Looks like some good news coming in for Bharti Airtel. Remember, the stock hit record high levels after the Q4 performance. So analysts expect the telecom company to generate profit over the 2 to 3 quarters and exit 2020 with a net positive PAT figure. Bharti Airtel may be back in black by end of December after a year of losses driven by strong operational metrics such as ARPU, which could get a further push by expected fresh tariff hikes and addition of 4G customers, and this is all as per analysts. Another analyst is saying that they expect Bharti Airtel will be able to generate profit over 2 to 3 quarters, exit 2020 with a net positive PAT, like I mentioned, and this is all going to be driven by their ARPU, that is average revenue per user, which could get a flip on back of additions in the 4G customer base and as well as fresh tariff hikes. So this is another story, and apart from that, you have another story on Bharti Airtel which came yesterday, that they've bought into an AI-focused company that is known as Voice Zen, which is an early-stage startup focused on conversational AI technology. So this is the story pertaining to Bharti Airtel this morning on Economic Times. But let's shift focus and let's talk about another story that is there in the packaged foods industry, and that is MTR. Who doesn't know MTR? I'm sure all of us have heard of MTR, have seen their products on the shelf. So the story is there on the page 5 of Economic Times. There you go. This is what the story that I'm talking about. The MTR is close to buying Eastern Condiments. So what is the story all about? MTR to get a large footprint in non-wet spices and condiment space. A big one that is coming in for MTR Food, like they are going to expand their business. They are planning to buy a controlling stake. They're close to buying a controlling stake in Eastern Condiments. That's a Kerala-based spices and mixes maker, and to largely get a foothold in the non-vegetarian market, spices market, and ready-to-cook food and condiments. That is all as per sources. So Eastern Condiments is valued close to around 1,800 to 2,000 crore rupees. MTR Food is a subsidiary of Norwegian conglomerate Orkla, and with a revenue of almost 900 crore, makes and sells spices, condiments, ready to cook breakfast, mixes, ready to eat meals, beverages and sweets. Like I said, who doesn't know what MTR does? You can see the products off the shelf. So here the news is they're close to buying Eastern Condiments to get into the non-vegetarian spices space as well. But let's talk about some e-grocery sales and how much will it clock. That's a story that's there on the Economic Times, is there on ET page 6. That e-groceries may clock $3 billion in sale. My colleague Winnie is here to take us through that story. Winnie, good morning. Take it away.
As e-commerce is becoming the new way of living, Indian online grocery market is expected to be at $3 billion for this year. That is 76% jump from last year's sales. And obviously this is mainly driven by the lockdown in the country, but this could sustain through the year as people are still fearing going out. And online may become a part of their life, so they could opt for online sales even going ahead. So that's why this could sustain throughout the year. Now obviously grocery sales is something that is leading the online sales this year, but otherwise also e-commerce sales are expected to be at around $35.5 billion this year. That is growing at 6% versus 33.35% $5 billion that was last year. So 6% growth rate is what we are expecting in overall online sales as well. Now Big Basket, Grofers, both of them said that that yes, they did see a pent-up demand during the beginning of the lockdown, but now also the sales are still at a high level, and Big Basket is delivering two-folds its sales. So if you go to see in the beginning pre-COVID level, they were making 1.5 lakh orders per day. As of now, they are delivering 3 lakh orders per day. So that's 2 times the previous orders. Even Grofers said that they have seen a nice jump in orders. Obviously, it's not at the beginning of the COVID levels, but very good sales. So that is why the online market is expecting a $3 billion sales.
Thank you, Vinny, for getting us the story this morning. Let's move on now to a story that's there on the ET Markets page, and this is the story that I'm talking about. Finance Minister and bank chiefs to look at easing credit delivery. Remember, the Finance Minister is going to meet the bank chiefs today in a video conference. They will be reviewing the schemes and tweak them if needed, and bankers may propose extension of the moratorium in this particular meet. Another meet that we are eyeing out for closely. But remember, today you have RBI Governor that will also be addressing at 10 a.m., something that we all will be closely watching out for. But let's shift focus now to the top 5 coronavirus headlines that is there on the Times of India for you. And the first up, it is on the global front, and world sees biggest one-day jump in cases as infections cross the 5 million mark. So that is the top headline coming in on coronavirus from the Times of India. Moving on, you have India that's reported 5,800 cases and 148 deaths in a day. Maharashtra has crossed the 40,000 mark. Mumbai has crossed 25,000 with nearly 7,000 cases added in the last 5 days. Moving on, you have 227 Mumbai cops that have recovered from COVID-19. Some sort of good news coming out on that front. And plasma therapy trial in Pune, a success.